Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Welcome to tonight's talk, and basically I'm just going to do a bit of a browse through the suttas and have a bit of an investigation into equanimity and what it means. So I thought I would begin with trying to apply equanimity to our lives and seeing how we can understand the qualities of equanimity so that we can understand perhaps how to develop it. Because, at one end, there's a big emotional reaction to what's happening now, and at the other end is this stone cold withdrawal and apathy and disinterest. And somehow equanimity is poised and balanced in the middle. It has warmth. So I thought actually, I'm just going to close that down for a moment, and that one. Now, I wanted to show you this picture of a lovely Buddha statue. I think it's in Sri Lanka. Yeah, Lord Buddha in Sri Lanka. And he's got such a the artist has executed such a lovely smile on this particular statue. And yet it's not the smile of rapture and excitement and jumping up and down, birthday party kind of happiness. In fact, when you see the serenity on this that's depicted here, it's a serene smile. And so in a lot of ways I feel the artist has quite well captured an image of equanimity, that serenity and peacefulness, but there's that warm, there's still an aspect of friendliness there, of warmth and friendliness. Perhaps what you might say, bearing witness with care. So one of my favourite suttas is the Simile of the Saw, which I had up on the screen before. And for me this is a bit of perhaps an odd place to start, but for me this is sort of like an emotional and mental insurance policy for when things go wrong. We buy house insurance and car insurance and health insurance and income insurance and death insurance and all sorts of things like that. So we've got a plan for the physicality of stuff, for the physicality of what we're going to do if things go wrong. But what's our plan in terms of our emotional and mental experience? How do we plan to respond? So in the Simile of the Saw, which you can see on the screen, the Buddha does a worst case scenario of low down bandits severing you limb from limb, and in the Pali it uses a saw. I think that's the kakachena. that seems pretty worst case scenario to me. Like, of all the things that could go wrong, having somebody slowly chopping my arms and legs off sounds pretty much out there as worst case scenario. And here he's saying, if you have a malevolent thought, where are we? A bad thought, an ugly thought, a hatred, angry thought, a thought of anger and hatred towards those bandits, then in that situation we're not following his instructions. This seems like a pretty high bar. There they are, chopping my arms and legs off, and he says that if I've got a malevolent thought on the account of that, then I'm not following his instructions. So I better have a plan. What am I supposed to do instead of getting upset with those people who are doing me wrong? Because the world is out of control, right? To a certain point, we can prevent other people doing the wrong thing to us, but actually, we can't really control that all the time. We can't stop war coming and suddenly erupting in our country. We can't stop plague erupting in our country. We can't stop the reality that there are people out there who do turn around and intentionally harm others with a malice aforethought, as in they mean it, they want to hurt us. So what's our plan? How do we deal with this situation? As in, if that happens, what are we supposed to do? So here the Buddha says, if the worst possible thing happens, we should train like this. And this one is something I recite to myself whenever the world does stuff that I don't like. And the world does stuff that I don't like pretty often. Maybe not to the point of someone, maliciously chopping off body parts, but, you get headaches, you get tummy aches, you get people who are annoying, all that stuff. You have people that disagree with you, you have people that do silly things. I can't stop any of that. And the Buddha says our mind will remain unaffected. We will blurt out no bad words. We will remain full of compassion, with a heart of love and no secret hate. We will meditate spreading a heart of love to that person or that situation, but to that person who's causing that situation. We will meditate spreading a heart of love, and with them as a basis, we'll meditate spreading a heart of love to everyone in the world, abundant, expansive, limited, free of enmity and ill will. So, when the bombers bomb and the plague runs and the government fumbles and the corrupted corrupt and all that stuff goes on, and the relatives are relatives, and the co-workers are co-workers, which means some of them are rather more annoying than others. My mind will remain unaffected. I will blurt out no bad words, and beginning with them, I will remain full of compassion, with a heart of love and no secret hate. In this moment right here, if I can actually bring that up so that in the moment of being triggered by the terrible out of control world, I can stand on the solid rock of my sila, of my virtue, of my ethics and morality. That's the thing I can trust in. Certainly can't trust the ethics and morality of those out there, and nor should I expect to. But if I can trust my own ethics and morality, then that is my solid rock to stand on. And from that basis of virtue, I can trust myself to do the right thing. If I can train in this, then I have a basis for mental and emotional virtue. And when I get better at it, then I will be able to trust myself to do the right thing emotionally. So how do I get better at it? Well, catching it closer and closer. So I'm thinking this. So let's have a look at a few other things that, because I did promise you more than this. So in this, where's the equanimity and why am I pulling this out? Well, I feel the first statement, our minds will remain unaffected, is a statement of equanimity in action. In the moment. In the moment that this happens, the low-down bandits are severing you from limb to limb, that family member is being what they frequently are, and they're doing it again. The statement of equanimity allows you to just sit in the moment and observe with care what's happening, this dynamic of this is happening now. And my choice is my mind will remain unaffected. This is a statement of equanimity, I believe, in action. Okay, so let's have a look at some other things here. What else have I got for you? By the way, this website also has the capacity to have Simile translations, and what I've got up now on the screen, I believe, unless I've scrolled to the wrong paragraph, because I don't read Simile, but I believe that's the same paragraph in Simile. So for those of you who that this is your preferred language, you can see the website address right at the top, over there. Yeah. So what else have I got to show you? I'll just close that down and no, not those ones. So here in the Salyatana Vibhanga Sutta, which is 137 in the Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha runs through the 6 sense bases and multiplies them by the 3 types of Vedana, and that's Dukkha Vedana, Sukha Vedana, and Upekkha Vedana. And so I thought that here is an interesting translation of household equanimity, but we could think of that as mundane equanimity. So mundane or householder equanimity is an equanimity that ordinary folk could aspire to. It's not the supramundane equanimity of the noble ones, but the sort of household equanimity. So this is the equanimity that arises when a foolish, deluded, run-of-the-mill, untaught person who has not conquered his limitations or the results of actions And it's not a very flattering description, but that's pretty much all those of us who are not saints, not Arya, not awakened saints. So, yeah, because we're still subject to delusion. So if we see a form with the eye, and of course then it runs through all 6 sense spaces, the form with the eye, a sound with the ear, the equanimity doesn't go beyond the form, which is why it's called household equanimity. Similarly with sounds, smells, tastes, tactile sensations and ideas. So I'm not 100% sure to that, but here why I brought this up was so that we can understand that the Buddha does talk about mundane equanimity as well as supramundane equanimity. So here, this is equanimity in terms of Vedana. So that is when you, in this particular context, the equanimity that arises in response to a sight or a smell or a sound or an idea hitting the mind is where you have neither liking nor disliking. So this is a mundane equanimity. So this is Upekkha Vedana, or the equanimous feeling, or neutral feeling as it's usually translated, neutral feeling. So a mundane neutral feeling is when we neither like nor dislike that sight, we neither like nor dislike that sound, we neither like nor dislike that idea, that concept, that belief. Yeah? So this is a very ordinary type of equanimity, but still here, relating to the previous sutta, my mind remains unshaken. So if an idea or a concept or a sight or a sound leaves us neither liking nor disliking, that is a situation where our mind does in fact remain unshaken. We're not pushed towards wanting that thing, and we're not pushing away from disliking it. So here, this is your household equanimity. It probably doesn't go beyond that form because it's not supramundane, and but nevertheless, it's an accessible type. Then it talks about moving into the 6 types of renunciation equanimity, where in the deeper practice, when you're experiencing the impermanence or inconstancy, it says here, but that's also impermanence or unreliability of the sights and sounds and touches and ideas, and you become aware of what change, fading and cessation, then that, because they're just so impermanent, then you move to that place of neither liking nor disliking, which allows us to move in our practice to an equanimity that goes beyond the form. So by having an understanding of that place in the mundane world where we can observe an idea, see a concept and neither like it nor dislike it, where we can taste a taste and neither like it nor dislike it, etc., then we can carry that neutral feeling into the practice where we're watching things arise and pass away, where we're seeing how very impermanent things are, and instead of experiencing dukkha at that change or suffering at that change, we can learn to practice neither liking nor disliking. And this is the same one, but a different translation of the same one. So that was I think, Tenisaro's translation. This one's, once again, Bhante Sujato's. So, in terms of knowing a thought with the mind, equanimity arises for the uneducated ordinary person, a foolish ordinary person who has not overcome their limitations and is blind to the drawbacks. Such equanimity does not transcend the thought, and that's why it's called lay equanimity. And then here we go with the renunciate equanimity. When you've understood the impermanence of sights, sounds, etc., their perishing, fading away, and cessation, that equanimity arises as you truly understand, through right understanding, that both formerly and now all those sights are impermanent, suffering, and perishable. And then this equanimity transcends the sight, sound, smell, touch, etc. So by training in the mundane equanimity of letting go of liking and disliking, we're able to train our mind in that equipoise, in that balance that will lead it to being also able to be equipoised and balanced as it perceives impermanence, suffering, and perishability. Hopefully. Well, that's the plan, isn't it? So, oh, hello, Buddha. So what else have I got? So over here in, I thought this was an interesting one too. There is 3 levels of things here. You kind of think, oh, there's, mundane and supramundane, and it's all binary, but actually it's not. The Buddha here talks about a more gradual progression of material, spiritual, and even more spiritual. How does that work? So here he's going, there's material equanimity, spiritual equanimity, and even more spiritual equanimity. Maybe that's where the late night telemarketers got it from. Yep, just wait, there's more spiritual equanimity. We got even more spiritual equanimity. It sounds like a good idea. So what else? What has he got to say? So his material rapture, spiritual rapture. Let's get down to equanimity, pleasure, equanimity. So what is material equanimity? So this is basically teasing out the thing we talked about before, is the ordinary, mundane, daily kind of equanimity. So here another one, the Ayya Santacari Sutta, and here we say we're in Samyutta Nikaya, chapter 36, Sutta 31. And what is material equanimity? Samisa Upekkha, as you can see in the Pali there. Well, there are these 5 kinds of sensual stimulation. Panchime, which 5? Sights known by the eye. So these are sense stimulations. So here we notice that we're not including the mind. So this is all body. Sounds, smells, touches. These are the 5 kinds of sense stimulation. And equanimity that arises from these 5 kinds of sensual stimulation is called material equanimity. And what is spiritual equanimity? It's when giving up pleasure and pain and ending former happiness and sadness and enters and remains into the 4th absorption, or the 4th jhana. So that is spiritual equanimity. So this is the division I was pointing out before between mundane and supramundane, because the jhanas are a supramundane state, or at least that's how the Abhidhamma defines them. And then the even more spiritual equanimity is, of course, transcending even jhanas and breaking through the veil and attaining nibbana. Having your mind completely freed from greed, hatred, and delusion is your even more spiritual equanimity. So I guess there's the equanimity, the spiritual equanimity of the non-Aryas, and the spiritual, that is, those persons who are able to attain the fourth absorption or fourth jhana. They have spiritual equanimity, but the even more spiritual equanimity is the noble ones, the Aryas. However, I do find comfort in the fact that the Buddha lists the material equanimity as an actual valid form of equanimity, where once again we're just merely not disliking and not liking. So what did I have on the fire sticks? So one of the things that I wanted to talk about next, if I can find it, is this one. In terms of training ourselves in developing more equanimity. So we've heard that, I might just close that for a moment, that equanimity is that poised, neither disliking nor liking, not wanting, not pushing away. I had looked, I'm not particularly skillful yet in looking up the Abhidhamma, but I do recall at least 2, possibly 3 different teachers that I've had in the past saying that the Abhidhamma defines equanimity as something like looking on with care. And I recalled one of the gathas that gets chanted in both the Sri Lankan traditions and the Thai traditions, Buddho Sasudho Mahuna Karunawo, something like that, the Buddha and his ocean-like compassion. And in the 4 boundless qualities, it talks about, or also in that simile of the saw, how the qualities of the Brahma Viharas are limitless and boundless. So if we aspire to developing boundless, limitless equanimity, and imagine the Buddha, imagine the epitome of equanimity. If we were distressed, what would we appreciate in somebody else, perhaps? And one of the things I've read right across from survivor groups is that thing of having people know that the problem happened, that the Holocaust isn't swept under the carpet, for example, that kind of thing. And that bearing witness is an important service for us to give to survivors. So several teachers had defined or said the definition of Upekkha is something like looking on with care. So there was the word anu in there, which is like following along, looking on with care. So if at one end we've got cold apathy and at the other end we've got hysterical overreaction, in the middle, if we're balanced and we're coming to the centre and centering ourselves, then thinking of that lovely Buddha picture, where is he? Oh, I've lost him, never mind. That feeling of warmth, of caring. So if we are to aspire to equanimity, it's not in front of us is some distressing situation or possibly some exciting situation. Someone wants to donate $3 million. How do I have equanimity towards that and not get overexcited? Someone tells me that Ajahn Brahm received the Order of Australia medal. I can have gladness, but I don't want to get overexcited. As well as dealing with the fact that there are all these terrible things happening in the world. There are all these wonderful things happening in the world. There are all these terrible things happening in the world. And when they happen, how can I cultivate neither liking nor disliking, which means my mind shall remain unshaken without cutting myself off. My mind will remain unshaken whilst I abide with a heart of compassion, while I live in this moment filled with compassion and kindness. I care. I care about this situation. I will not cut myself off from it. And neither will I feel that in order to display empathy, to display compassion, I don't have to join them in their suffering. I don't have to hurt too, because that doesn't help. So when we see black deaths in custody, and here in Australia, Aboriginal black deaths in custody in particular, I feel is our racial issue here in this country. And to my Aboriginal brothers and sisters, my compassion goes out for you, and I bear witness to the fact that this terrible thing is happening to you. But I don't think that it will help if I'm going to hurt too, if I get upset. It would be like if a good friend of mine accidentally hit themselves on the thumb with a hammer. To prove that I care for my friend, I don't have to get a hammer and hit my own thumb, because that doesn't help them. So, I don't need to bleed for them, but I do need to care warmly. I do need to, and I think that bearing witness that this is truth, that this is truly happening, and bearing witness to the truth of survivors is an important way of holding equanimity without our minds becoming shaken. Because if our mind does become shaken, upset and agitated, or with starting to withdraw and become cold because it's too much and it's too overwhelming and it hurts too much, so I need to withdraw to protect myself. And that's a type of being shaken, that withdrawing and hiding, emotionally hiding. Then I'm not present to render aid if that's possible, yeah? If I'm present and paying attention with care, and the opportunity arises to relieve the suffering of others, then we're well placed to take that opportunity and do something about it. But if we've exhausted ourselves hitting our own thumb with a hammer to prove how much we care, then we won't be in a fit state to be able to take advantage of the opportunity to do some actual useful help. then the actual useful help that we do engage in won't burn us out so quickly. We'll be able to continue to help without experiencing activist burnout, yeah? So, coming back to what it was that I was looking at last, careless attention. So, of course, we've all got mental and emotional habits. So how do we train ourselves in this new habit? So here in this particular one, in the Careless Attention Sutta, which is in or Samyutta Nikaya, chapter 46, Sutta 24, the Buddha talks about the process of habit, how it works. So when you attend carelessly, like let your mind pay attention to whatever it feels like, roaming around, attending to this, attending to that, allowing bad habits to just run along, then sensual desire that wasn't there already arises, and sensual desire that was already there gets bigger. And similarly with ill will and sloth and torpor and restlessness and doubt. So he's going here through the 5 hindrances. So in other words, if we're not paying careful attention, if we are careless with what we are paying attention to, then these 5 hindrances of desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and remorse and doubt arise and get larger. All of those things are manifestations of the mind being shaken. Desire is shaking towards wanting. Ill will is pushing away. These are all types of how our mind gets shaken. So he's saying here that we're paying unwise attention. Careless attention is the cause of our mind shaking. And the next paragraph, which is also just as important, is when one attends carefully, these things don't arise. So how do we know what to pay attention to and what not to pay attention to? Because here he doesn't actually give a prescription for what topics one should avoid and what topics one should pay attention to. So how do we unpack that? Excuse me. It's a bit of a circular definition. If paying attention to a particular topic causes the arising of one of these 5 things, then it's something that's not wise to pay attention to. And furthermore, it's the sort of thing that we tend to pay attention to by habit rather than something we intentionally chose to pay attention to. Although that's not always the case. But here, if paying attention to it causes these negative things to arise, then it's not sensible. And where is that in? Different one. So, if we pay attention to noticing what's arising and what, are these things present? Are they absent? And if they're arising, what was I paying attention to when that arose? And in what way was I paying attention to it? So hopefully that is kind of useful. Let's see what else I've got here, just out of interest. Here we go. Here's the four Brahma Viharas, which from which we get the chant that the four boundless qualities, where you develop a mind full of loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity, and pervade the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, above and below, around and everywhere. He dwells pervading the entire world with a mind imbued with equanimity. And this is the bit where he lists the qualities of that equanimity. This equanimity, the mind imbued with equanimity, that is vast, exalted, measureless, without enmity, and without ill will. Yeah? So this is just a list of some of the qualities of well-developed equanimity. It's vast, ocean-like, if you like. So we want this ocean of equanimity to allow the mind to float, if you like, in a vast, limitless ocean of equanimity where it's even and it's measureless and it's exalted. It's a beautiful, exalted place. So that's 45 minutes on equanimity, and I wonder if there's any questions come in. Doesn't look like it. Maybe. Okay. So I think that what I might do now is just pull up that chant and finish off with the chant of the four boundless states in Pali and in English. Partly because it's one of my favourites to chant, and it's a thing that I discover is useful in terms of a beneficial thing to reflect on that prevents the arising of hindrances. So just let me find it here, and hopefully now, I hope you can see that. So this is the chant of four boundless qualities. Metta sahagatena cetasa ekam disang paritva viharati tata dutiyam tata tatiyam tata chatutam iti udamado tiriyam sabadi sabatataya sabawantam lokam metta sahagatena cetasa vipulena mahagatena apamanena averena abhyapajena paritva viharati karuna sahagatena cetasa ekam disang paritva viharati tata dutiyam tata tatiyam tata chatutam iti udamado tiriyam sabadi sabha tataya sabawantam lokam karuna sahagatena cetasa vipulena mahagatena apamanena averena abhyapajena paritva viharati mudita sahagatena cetasa ekam disang paritva viharati tata dutiyam tata tatiyam tata chatutam iti udamado tiriyam sabadi sabatataya sabawantam lokam mudita sahagatena cetasa vipulena mahagatena apamanena averena abhyapajena paritva viharati upekkha sahagatena cetasa ekam disang paritva viharati tata dutiyam tata tatiyam tata chatutam iti udamado tiriyam sabadi sabatataya sabawantam lokam upekkha sahagatena cetasa vipulena mahagatena apamanena averena abhyapajena paritva viharati ti. And now we'll chant it in English. To the top. Oops, too far. I will abide, pervading 1/4, with a mind imbued with loving kindness, likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth, so above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading 1/4, with a mind imbued with compassion, likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth, so above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with compassion, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading 1/4, with a mind imbued with gladness, likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth, so above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with gladness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading 1/4, with a mind imbued with equanimity, likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth, so above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with equanimity, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. So thank you very much for joining me tonight. It's nice to know there's a few friends out there watching, and I hope you feel connected with me tonight. I feel connected to you, that's for sure. And I'll just finish off with Buddha Dhamma Sangha. And I better put this down here, I'll knock it off. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Svakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Supatipanno Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sangham Namami.